Hello and welcome back to my workshop. Now I had something else in mind, but I'm having trouble getting material, so today we're going to do a review. Recently I was given this. Now on first glance I thought that this was just a little model, something to set on your desk, but this is a fully functional miniature plane. This plane was made by the Marx Company. They were around from 1902 to about 1980. In the 1950s they made a set of tools which this was a part of. And you can see it looks like your regular scrub plane, like a Stanley, or like this big plane here. See the resemblance? Specifically, this was modeled after a Stanley number 2. Now, aesthetically it looks just like one. It doesn't actually function like one, so this thumb screw here doesn't actually turn, but it's got the little knobs, and it's got this little piece which is molded, which actually doesn't function like a regular one. It just basically holds the blade in place. But I'm going to use the edge of my bench here and show you that it actually does make shavings. Now ultimately it cuts, which is amazing for a small plane like this. When Marx came out with these in the 50s, the marketing was toys for boys. So they had a set of tools that were all fully functional, and they were all miniature, and it was done for making model kits using balsa wood, which is why ultimately this has the type of blade that it does, because balsa wood is soft wood, so it'll cut easily. For what I'm going to be using it for, I'm going to be using it more like a thumb plane. So eventually I'd like to change out this blade, but for now I'm going to focus on these handles. So I've picked out this piece of wood here that I would like to switch these out with so that it matches more of your standard plane handle. And then I'd like to flatten this and maybe open up the throat here a little bit for now. Now it looks like these are just glued on to the plane, and it looks like someone re-glued it at one point. So I'm hoping that'll make it easier to take this off. I got a razor here. I'm going to use this to try and break away some of that glue. Little tip, when you're removing glue, if you warm up the blade a little bit, it helps soften that glue. So I'm just going to run it under the fire here for just a second, just to get it warm. And then I'm going to start trying to take these handles off. See, that one actually popped out pretty nicely. So now that I've got that one loose, I'm going to switch over to this one. All right. Now we've broken that loose. There's actually a peg in here that is sitting on. I'll undo this screw here. All right. So it's somewhat constructed like a regular one. There's a post that it sits on, a little nub down here, and then a post up top here. Using the original handle as a template, I'm just going to draw it roughly on my piece here. and then that'll give me what I need to cut away. I've got some of the waste away. Now before I cut off the rest, I'm going to drill those holes to guide it onto the piece. Alright, got the holes drilled out. Now I'm going to go ahead and start shaping it and then cutting the extra off. Alright, now that we got the handle all set, just needs a little sanding. There's the old one. Now we can move on to the knob. Now here I've got another neat little tool. This is a jeweler's lathe, so it's smaller. At most it can only do really about 6 inches of stock. So I mean it's made for small pieces, but for a small little knob like this, I think this will work perfectly. So we're going to go ahead and start turning this. You can just go ahead and use a regular chisel on this. I do have some lathe chisels, but they're a little large for a piece like this. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it with this. There's a knob. Alright, now that those fit on there, we just need to oil them and glue them on. Now that I've taken and sanded these down, I'm going to give them a good oiling. That's what that finished product's going to look like. Alright, I'll let those dry, and then it's on to gluing them on. Alright, it's a new day, and now that these are dry, I'm going to mix up some epoxy and epoxy these on. Once that epoxy sets, we'll flatten the sole. Alright, and now we wait. Now that these handles are dry, I'm going to go ahead and flatten this out. You can't tell I opened up this throat a little bit off camera. I think that'll be plenty. I didn't need to open it too much, so I just did that filing so I could do the flattening of the surface afterwards. Now, when I do this, I always mark off the surface that I'm working on just to make sure that it's flat. In this case, this is metal, so I want to use something that'll actually stick to it. When you're working on wood, I would use pencil. So you just want to black out that surface, and then you just keep working it until it's flat. Make sure you have a flat surface that you're sanding on. And of course, when you're working on something larger, you need a larger sheet of sandpaper to work on. In this case, I'm just going to do it at 320 because I think it's pretty flat as it is. And then I'm just going to polish it up afterwards. Now this was a soft metal, so as you can see it didn't take much to flatten that surface up. So I'm just going to go ahead and spot polish it. Alright, now that we got that all polished up, Now we just gotta put it back together. Alright, now that that's back together, still cuts beautifully. Well, I couldn't be happier with how this turned out. Nice little addition to my collection, and best of all, it's fully functional. Now, like I said, I may revisit this and replace the blade at some point, but I'm actually really impressed with how well this blade actually cuts, so I may just try it for a little while and see how I like it and decide from there. If you've liked this video, don't forget to throw it a like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.